Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. As we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today. Happy 4th of July to all you Americans out there. You know, Independence Day, something, America, fireworks. I don't really know what else happens on 4th of July, but it's something like that, I think. Anyway, that's not what we're going to be talking about today. I don't know, what should I talk about? Some very interesting stuff happened yesterday, you know, and then, as I said, I was a little busy, which is why I did the Happy on Paradise in the morning, because I did stuff in the evening, and went bowling with my friends. I'm not very good at bowling, is basically the long and short of it. Well, actually, no, it's not necessarily I'm terrible at bowling, because, you know, I'm very inconsistent, is perhaps what I'll say. Anyway, hello everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 2:51 p.m. on Monday, July 4th, 2022. Oh, it's Apollo's birthday. Let's make sure to get him a present too. So yeah, we went bowling. We go bowling sometimes. It more as a recreational activity, not really much of a competitive nature to it, because I don't think we're particularly good at bowling, but it's good fun. That's kind of the long and short of it, isn't it? You know, it doesn't really matter if you're good or bad, as long as you're having a good time. You know, chucking pretty heavy balls, I suppose, down an oiled up wooden floor. And oh, hold on, let's perhaps take the present first before we throw it away. And that's all good and well and fun. Yeah, anyway, as I say, I'm very inconsistent at bowling, because, you know, we did 2 games. I don't know if, yeah, I think I think that's the same one from last year. We did 2 games, and I will say, not simultaneously, but it's like in the same game, I missed like 4 shots. I like got 4 gutter balls in a row, followed by getting a spare and then immediate strike, and then 8 pins, you know, on the next one immediately afterwards. So, you know, I was saying very inconsistent, where I hit like half my shots, but the shots I do hit seem to be, you know, relatively decent. Part of the reason I'm sure I'm so bad at, well, you know, but part of the reason I like to think I'm so bad at bowling is because of the fact I'm bowling left-handed. And you might be like, oh, you know, are you left-handed? No, I'm right-handed actually. The reason is that I tend to not do any big sports. Any sports which have like big swinging motions with my right arm, because if you know, I've talked about this before, I'm like hypermobile, so I tend to dislocate my I've dislocated my right shoulder quite a lot in the past, namely through sports like badminton, tennis, any of the racket sports with like big like swings and smashes. So I tend to, if I can avoid it, like if it's a sport, you know, where it doesn't really matter what I do, I'll do things with my left arm instead of my right arm, just to, you know, play things a little bit safe. Even though I don't think bowling's going to do anything, it's just, you know, why not? It's going to, you know, marginally affect my bowling capabilities, for the worse, mind you. But, you know, it's also, like, not that big a deal in the end, methinks. I do like the 3 of you all just, like, working out over here. It's very cute, I would say. We have a lot of things in our inventory. I think we can go to Halves Island first, that'll be fine. So, yeah, we did a little bit of bowling. You might be like, how did you do? The 4 of us, I came 4th the first time we bowled, and then I came 2nd in the second game we played. Which is literally because, you know, I think I was like dead last, and then, you know, I got the spare, and then I converted a strike, and then I got 8 pins on the next one, which just randomly just catapulted me up to 2nd place. Like, literally, those 2 frames alone saved my entire bowling game, I'm going to be honest. Anyway, bowling's very different nowadays, I think, compared to when I was younger, because I certainly, you know, I've done a lot of bowling and birthday parties when I was younger. You know, it was probably the soup du jour, or the flavour of the year for like parties, especially when I was in primary school. That's not always necessarily the case, but it's a very sort of generic thing. Like we had like different metas with parties. Like we had a go-karting meta, we had this like Scalextrics. There's a Scalextrics thing. Like, I gotta be honest, all of the like metas in my birthday parties were started by like my best friend. In primary school, I think so. At least I think it was his. So he'd have that birthday party, then everyone would be like, oh, that's cool. And then, you know, everyone else just sort of does the same thing. Like, we had one of those Scalextrics. That was a really fun time, I'm going to be honest. We had like a Quasar ones were quite fun. You might be like, how many of these did I jump on? I don't really remember. I've got a really bad memory now from one of my from a friend I had in primary school. You know, obviously we were like 11, but or whatever at the time. But you know, I guess I will get over the story anyway. But basically, one of my other friends, her family was a bit more, you know, like well off, or shall we say, and like looking back in retrospect, they basically rented out this entire like private rollerblading rink for her party, and it was like basically the entire evening doing rollerblading. It was a rollerblading disco, a huge event. It was like a private bar where you can get like snacks and food. It was basically extravagant and really awesome, by the way. You know, she was a lovely girl. She was very friendly. She was very nice as well. I don't know how I describe her. You know, she's very sort of dramatic, and she was quite like a class clown in a sort of sense. From what I remember, I don't know if you remember that's right wrong. But anyway, it was a really cool party, and you know, and of course that became a sort of meta. I think it was like in year 6 or whatever. So it was like I went to my parents, hey, can we do a rollerblading party for my party? That sounds really fun. So my parents did it, and they rented out this very nice, like modest. It was like a hall, like a gymnasium or something, where, you know, my friends all like rollerbladed for a bit. It wasn't for too long, it was only for a couple of hours, and, you know, I'm very thankful my parents did it, and, you know, honestly, I had a fantastic time. And then I remember a comment from, he was my best friend back in, like, the younger days of primary school, but then we sort of, like, fell out of favour, and now we don't even talk to each other, I'm going to be honest. But, you know, we didn't even really talk to each other after, like, leaving primary school. To be honest, I don't really talk to any of my friends in primary school, I'm going to be honest. We all just sort of fell out of contact with each other. But then I just remember he just kept, like, after my party, you know, instead of being like, oh, you know, happy birthday, or like cool things or anything like that, he was just like, why was your party so much worse than the other girl's party? The other girl's party was so cool and did all these things, and yours was just terrible. And I was like, wow, okay, rude. I wonder if that was actually like a more of a deterioration point for our friendship. That was a very uncalled for and rude thing, you know. Someone I considered, you know, maybe not my best friend, but maybe even my best friend, or at least a very good friend. In previous years, so it's just, you know, a very backhanded not even backhanded compliment, it's just an insult. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. But, you know, I'm not gonna hold it against him. You know, he was like 10 at the time or something. So, you know, whatever. You know, kids say the darndest things. Kids can be mean, but, you know, yeah, it's a learning experience, I suppose. Learning to be not necessarily learn to be compassionate to others, and I think most kids, you know, reasonably are compassionate, but just more like sort of being more aware of what you say. You know, obviously in his mind, he was just like, oh man, her party was such a grand event, but dear darling's party was just sort of like meh. And it's true, you know, it was of course smaller scale, but I still enjoyed it. And, you know, at the end of the day of these birthday parties, it's all about having fun and with people you're spending time with, I suppose, rather than necessarily the grand events that you put on. So don't feel like, you know, you're pressured to put on these like grand crazy things just to, you know, for a bit of showmanship, I suppose. Anyway, sorry, just random memory I just had from my friend. Don't know what he's up to now. Who knows? I forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, bowling, yes. So bowling was sort of like flavour of birthday parties for quite a while in primary school, especially. I think I might have had a birthday. Yeah, I almost certainly did. I think it was more like a secondary school thing. I had like birthday parties at bowling alleys until, you know, like birthday parties slowly sort of fell out of fashion. I remember, you know, a lot of birthday parties just in the end just, you know, sort of boil down to going around to someone's house and just like drinking alcohol, which I will say, you know, I'll be honest, I think a bowling party's a little bit more fun. No, I don't have anything wrong, of course, drinking alcohol, having a bit of a party at people's house, but, you know, it's just more like, it's not really that big of an event, I suppose. You know, different strokes for different folks, of course. Oh, you know, I would have thought I had room for weeds in my pocket, but I don't. It's sort of thing where it's just like, you know, or you always like, I guess it's because it's sort of a trade-off where you want to invite more people to the birthday party, and it's a lot cheaper just to be like, hey, come to the house, bring whatever alcohol you want, you know, or whatever drinks you want, and then, you know, have a party that way. It's a social gathering, but, you know, I'm saying, well, actually, I'm not sure, because definitely at that time, it was sort of teenage into young adult years, I'd be like, oh, those are the sort of best parties. I mean, I guess I am still a young adult, but, you know, now I'm getting older again, you know, past the university drinking times, I'm just like, yeah, you know, bowling's pretty fun, even though I'm pretty terrible at it. You know, it's a weird thing when I'm doing bowling, because, you know, I feel like what you're meant to bowl is, I don't know how to say it except for, like, underarm, but, you know, I find like, every time I sort of bowl underarm, at least with my left arm, it sort of like crosses over. I somehow put an absolutely insane amount of spin on my ball, and it goes like straight into the right gutter every single time. Most success I found is by just sort of like chucking, like, I don't know how to describe it, but having my hand sort of like horizontal, or no, perpendicular to the actual bowling alley direction, and then sort of chucking the ball down that way. And for some reason, that just ends up working the best for me. I don't really know why, but there's some weird finesse to it, and I can always tell immediately as soon as I throw the ball, I'm just like, that is going either straight into a gutter or it's going perfectly straight, and I don't really know what that sort of influence is. Obviously it's like probably to do with a twist of my wrist or something as I release the bowling ball, but to think I have that much control over it is a little bit ambitious, I think, in the first place. So yeah, basically I'm not great at bowling. Could certainly be a lot better. I've got a lot to improve on, as it comes to my bowling game. But, you know, it's always, bowling is just generally quite a fun activity to do, you know. If you ever have a loss of what to do, bowling's not bad, is what I say. Sorry, let me have a sip of water. And also, the fantastic part about bowling, one, fantastic for kids' parties, you know, just, well, you teach other kids how to play bowling, and most kids have probably played bowling with family. That's not necessarily true, but, you know, I would say it's up there with one of the more common sort of activities that kids have participated in. You know, bowling's up there. You know, a lot of kids definitely have never gone go-karting before, and, like, you know, haven't necessarily gone to laser tag or anything like that. But bowling is just like, I don't know, it's certainly out there for, like, one of the ones where, you know, kids, you don't have to teach your kids anything. You just be like, oh, this is what happens. Or even if you don't know what happens, it's a very sort of repetitive sort of thing over and over again. The kids can sort of figure it out pretty quickly, you know, as long as one person knows how to bowl. So I'm describing it from, like, a parents running a kid's birthday party sort of like thing. And plus, the bowling alleys know this, so they always got, like, you can, like, host birthday parties there, and you, like, sit down and have a good old meal or whatever, eat some food, and, you know, they've organised everything. And even more fantastic was even more, like, huge accessibility options. Like, you can have bumpers up, bumpers down, or whatever. Obviously, you know, as adults we do bumpers down just because, you know, we want to. If you mess up and, you know, you send a ball careening into the gutter, then, you know, you should feel the repercussions of that. I don't know. No, obviously we don't take bowling that seriously, but, you know, it adds a bit more of a challenge rather than bumpers. But of course, you know, you can put bumpers up when you're a kid, but even when you're a super small kid and you can't, you know, like, chuck a ball properly, you got those what do they call, like, the ramp things, which you can use to send the balls down. Actually, had a flashback now to another friend in primary school's birthday party where she had a very big one from our record, like most people in the class, I think, were there, to be perfectly honest. And then, you know, we were discussing, like, who got the highest scores, and she was like, oh, I got the highest score, like, from her perspective. Like, she said that she got the highest score, and I was, I remember just going up to, I was talking to her, not like going up to her, and being like, you don't have the highest score, you know, you used the rolly ramp thing. I got the highest score because I got, like, amusing. I was better back then at bowling than I am now because I think I got like 100 or something somehow. I guess because of the bumpers were up, so that probably helps quite a lot. Without using the slide thing. Bear in mind, we were like 9 or something, so, you know that's kind of like some of the things you brag about when you're that age, probably. And then I remember the mother being very diplomatic, being like, you both couldn't high school, you know. The birthday girl couldn't have a high school with this ramp, and then you did, having had a high school without ramp, and we, you know, were both satisfied with that. Props to the mum there for, you know, coming very swiftly and, you know, resolving what could have been like 2 kids just being annoying little kids. It's really annoying. No, kids are lovely, and, you know, kids are great and fantastic, but, you know, sometimes kids just don't obviously have the right scope of things. Obviously, as an adult, you'd be like, doesn't matter. Well, actually, you know, some adults probably don't have that perspective, but obviously as an adult you look at a bonus scores, you know, it doesn't matter, but to the kids that matters a lot, you know. You've got to be the best. Anyway, that was fun. We decided that's how it worked, and, you know, we got distracted by the fact that we had helium balloons, and if you started inhaling the helium balloons, your voice gets all high, and we started singing happy birthday to a birthday girl with the helium balloons inhaled, which obviously you can't do now. 1, because helium is insanely expensive or whatever, and 2, and well, I don't really know what 2 is. But I guess you can do it now. Nothing's really stopping you. Just kind of a price of helium. Anyway, I forgot what I was saying. I was going to say about bowling. So anyway, I don't know. There should be some sort of... There's definitely a lot of strategy you can employ in bowling. You know, I've learned about it. I know there's, like, different types of, like, weights or whatever, bowling balls. You always want to, like, try and put a little bit of spin or whatever on the bowling ball, try and get that pin action. Because, you know, I'm not going to say bowling is luck. It is definitely, a lot of it is skill. But there is a little bit of luck with how the pins, you know, sort of bounce around. Right? And putting that spin on sort of, like, adds more, like, chaoticness to the pins. It's, oh, we need to get something for Apollo. I forgot. Let us grab some fruit from an orchard. If you don't know, fruit is actually one of the best gifts for whatever reason. For fruit not native to your island is one of the best birthday gifts to give in Animal Crossing, for whatever reason. But yeah, there is a lot of strategy as well, you know. Obviously, putting that spin on and having it actually, you know, go straight at the pins is skill in itself. There's, you know, like, strategy involving, like, which ball you actually need to choose to tackle a particular arrangement of pins, because, you know, certain pins will, you know, certain balls will be easier or harder to throw or spin, probably. Don't quote me on that because I'm not super sure how it works. And you know, there's things like oil patterns in the lane, which I'm sure influence things. I don't really know how they influence things, but I think they do influence them quite a lot. And then, I don't know. I guess, like, strong mental is, you know, quite an important thing as well to have. It's sort of the same thing as, you know, like, archery and other sports where basically your performance is more defined. Look, I don't know how, sorry, how do I describe this? It's a thing, I feel like, in archery where it's sort of just like, you know, the people are so good that, you know, getting perfect scores is not totally unreasonable compared to other sports where getting perfect scores is entirely unfeasible. I can't really think of another sport where getting a perfect score is unfeasible. But like, I don't know, maybe some of like gymnastics sports. Maybe? I don't know if that's necessarily true the more I think about it, but whatever. But like, all the professionals are like so consistent, right? They can consistently hit like 10s, or at least, you know, if they get a 9, which is like, how did that happen? Or whatever. Or like skeet shooting, you know, they can very consistently hit every single skeet, I think. But like these accuracy scores, I think bowling sort of lands in that same category where, you know, it's quite common to get, you know, very good and high scores or whatever bowling, and being able to consistently hit those scores over and over and over again, you know, being able to keep that strong mental, I suppose, going. That's an important part of, you know, being an athlete in bowling. And I feel like I've talked about bowling before. I've a sudden memory, I was going to start talking about this bowling movie that happened on Disney. Oh, look, the Anno Cute. I forgot Anno Cute was being was coming out today. Hold on, let's see, bowling. I haven't talked about bowling before? What on earth? I feel like I talked about this movie before. I can't remember what the movie's called, but it's a bowling movie that was on Disney. I mean, it was like this kid who wanted to be like a superstar bowler or whatever, but his father was like pushing him to be like the very best or something, and or whatever, and be like the one who be the star athlete at all the time. But then, you know, they got to the final competition, the finals, and the final split, he had to pick up all 10 the final frame, he had to pick up all 10 pins to secure the win, but then he got the dreaded 7-10 split. And then, you know, his father wanted him to actually bowl that split and pick it up as best he can, but then, you know, he talked to one of the girls, and one of the girls who basically didn't bowl like throughout the entire thing was like, oh yeah, I can do the split. And he was like, alright, well, you do it then. Not that, it wasn't like that, he was like, okay, I believe in you, you do it. And then his dad was like, you go out there, you bowl that split. And the son was like, no, you know, I can't always be that star person every single time. Whatever. I can't remember, something like that. Anyway, she picks up the split and everyone goes, wow! Using a very improbable method of spinning the ball and having it slowly roll up to the pin, causing the other pin to spin in the direction of the other pin and knock it over. Anyway, there's a lot of funny things which happen in bowling. One of my friends, you know, he's a very strong friend, I would say. He just like absolutely sends the bowling ball flying down the alley. I was just like, what's it called? The track? That's not right. Down the alley. And he actually started off doing very well. He did pretty well in the first game. I think he came second or something. I don't remember. But then, like, something started happening in the second game where, I don't know, maybe got tilted or maybe he, you know, got stuck in a little bit of a rut. But he kept like careening it incredibly hard, and it kept going immediately into the gutter. But the most incredible thing was it goes into the gutter and it starts rattling like down the gutter with such like velocity. It actually like hops out of the gutter a little bit and manages to knock over the 10 pin every single time. And we were just like, what on earth is going on? How have you managed to do this? He got a gutter board about halfway down the thing. And there was quite a few times where he got a gutter board, like within like the first like 2 meters of actually like chucking the ball down the lane. But then it like rattled about with such ferocity that he knocked the 10 pin, and that 10 pin actually knocked over like 5 other pins. Just because it just got absolutely launched. There was one time he launched it, and I can't remember which bit. It's one of the back pins or whatever. He hit it with such force that it started helicoptering at the back before it hit the back wall. It spun around so many times. And the most incredible thing, there's another thing which is a big difference from the bowling alleys of yore. One major thing from bowling alleys previously that is different now is that obviously when I was much younger, you always had to change your shoes no matter what kind of shoes you came in wearing. You always had to use their bowling approved shoes, and I assume that's to sort of like prevent injury because, I don't know, maybe they're like steel toe capped or whatever, so if you drop a bowling ball and it lands on your feet, you're not going to like horribly break every bone in your body. It's, well, not bone in your body, every bone in your foot. You're just going to, you know, bruise your toe, which will, you know, still hurt, but still they obviously want to not have any liability. Nowadays, obviously, I don't know if it's due to pandemic or whatever, or maybe it was just more economical, so we didn't have to spend so much money on the shoe spray. For bowling alleys to just be like, yeah, okay, as long as you don't have an open-toed shoe and you aren't wearing heels or whatever, you'll be fine to bowl. I forgot what else I was gonna say. Oh, the other thing which I actually found like quite interesting about this bowling alley, which I didn't notice the last time we went to this bowling alley. I'm actually not sure if I went to this bowling alley last time, but all the pins are on like strings now. Rather than having the setting machines and like loose pins, which they all get like scooped up together and like put through this big old like machine to like align them again or whatever, and then set them properly and rightly. They're basically all tied to strings in their original arrangement, and whatever pins get knocked over, you know, they all get pulled up, restood, and then the machine will work out which pins were knocked over, and then like when the machine like goes down and comes back up again, it will leave the pins which still need to be knocked over and pull up the ones which don't need to be knocked over. And I was like, that's a very clever system. Because obviously that will, for one, it'll decrease the amount of space you probably need to actually have the pin setting machines at the back, because you just, now instead of having like a continuous treadmill of like pins going round and like shuffling in position or whatever, and then other things holding the pins together in the settled frames and arrangements, you can just have like spools of rope or string, just like, you know, putting the pins up every single time. It's the sort of thing where I feel like I probably, you know, wondered when I was younger why they didn't do that sort of thing. But one thing I was surprised at, like, that this exists, like how this could exist, is more like, I would have thought the cables would get super tangled, or the cables would be very prone to knocking over other pins. My guess is that when the pins come down, if the pin is active, the cable or the string must be very slack, so the pin can go flying about and then not actually knock into other pins. Or maybe like it has a reel with like a very easy give, so as soon as the pin goes flying, the reel starts like giving more rope to give it more slack, but still keep the rope sort of taut enough to keep it out of the way. Excuse me. That's my assumption. I don't really know, to be perfectly honest. It's sort of big. I was just sort of more surprised of anything, like, oh, you know, that's a very clever system. And I also wondered if a rope would end up, okay, it seems like we cleared out all the flowers, would end up knocking over more of the other pins by accident, you know. What if you send the first pin like careening back to the left, but it like hopped over all the other pins? Wouldn't the rope just sort of take out every other pin as well? I don't really know. By the way, it seems to have worked out fine, and if it, at the end of the day, it's anything, just things which work out, I suppose, in your favour, to be perfectly honest. As a bowler, you know, you're more likely to get a higher score than a lower score if you end up knocking more pins over. But I can't imagine that like it was a tournament legal alley. But to be fair, this bowling alley is very much for like children's birthday parties and that sort of thing. It's a very popular chain bowling alley in UK. But anyway, so the other best thing about bowling alleys is they always come with like a sick arcade at the front, you know. Every bowling alley I've been to, maybe it's because I've only been to ones which aren't professional bowling alleys and more just for like kids' birthday parties and things. They always had a fantastic not bowling alley, well, of course bowling alley, but they always had a fantastic arcade at the front. All those sort of games, you know, you got classic games. The ones which my friends love a lot, which they do every single time, is the basketball hoop one. You know, the first time I did it with my friends, I did pretty well actually. And the second time I did it, this time, we went to a bowling alley, I was utterly terrible. I was just utter trash at it this time. I've no idea what happened. Apparently, I've gotten so much worse at basketball. But to be fair, they did change the machines. They're now Pac-Man themed. And I was like, now it's Pac-Man themed. I'm just incapable of shooting with basketball anymore. It's too distracting somehow. Actually, that has weird connotations. Maybe let's move past that. They also have other things. They have like the clown. It's basically like any game you would see like at a not festival, like a fairground. They had that like the carnival clowns, they had the ring toss. They had things like the penny pushing machines. I forget what coin pushers or whatever. There was like SpongeBob themed one. They're really expensive now. When I was younger, you used to have like 1p and 2p ones. Now they're 10p a go. I'm like, what on earth? 10p. My inflation. Anyway, what else did they have? Oh, we need to customize our tool. They had a lot of shooting games, they had racing games, shooting games, you know, they're so passe. They have this air hockey thing. It was a 2-on-2 air hockey, which is really fun, but also it's Also Pac-Man themed. So I don't know, Bandai Namco, I suppose, have a lot of like sponsorship going on into this Hollywood, in this bowling alley. Yeah, but it's very chaotic because, you know, they start off basically sort of like drip feeding, like 1 puck at a time, and then we sometimes like drip feed 2, and then just like at certain moments it'll just be like whoosh, and they'll just basically like drop like 20 pucks just simultaneously onto the air hockey thing. And might I say, you know, my other friend, you know, who I described as a strong friend earlier when he came to bowling, knocked at least 3 of those pucks just completely off the table with such gusto, just like straight into like the edge of the air hockey table, and it just went flying off the table. Anyway, I won with my friend. So I guess our team won is probably what I should have said. If I was being a bit more inclusive. What other games is that? Oh, they had piano tiles. It was actually like the first time I ever played the arcade piano tile game. Like, I know what piano tiles is. I downloaded it once on my... No. Actually, no, I don't think I've ever downloaded it on my phone. One of my friends had it on their phone, and I used to sometimes play it on their phone, but I didn't play it that often. But, you know, I'm rather good at rhythm games, so, you know, played a bit of piano tiles. Just gotta say, I got the top 5... In that one location, I got the top 5 scores. At least for that day. The high score was only 100, and I got like 129, I think was my best, which I was like, whoa, I'm pretty good at this. And what's even more crazy is I'm pretty sure I made a mistake on that run as well, so it can get even better. Anyway, I'm pretty good at piano tiles, it turns out. That's probably all my rhythm game practice coming in. My Idol Master Cinderella Girl Starlight stage practice. Shout out to that. And just made me pretty good at piano tiles. Anyway, we were doing it, and you get tickets from, weirdly, you get tickets from almost every single machine in that arcade, which is, you know, pretty standard stuff for an arcade, but for some reason the basketball game doesn't give you any, for whatever reason. Anyway, the long and short is we ended up getting, you know, tickets from things, and we were looking at the price things, being like, what should we get? And there was a yo-yo you could get for like 250 tickets or something, and, you know, my friend was like, we've got to get this yo-yo, and we were like, how many tickets do we have now? We had like 116 or something. You were like, man, and we really, to be fair, we really spent like £20, I think, at a point on the arcade. Mainly because they were playing the basketball game over and over and over again, I'll be honest. But they were just like, oh, you know, how can we get this this yo-yo? And I was like, well, you know, I jokingly went, you know, just give me like £5 on piano tiles, and, you know, I'll probably get enough for it. And legitimately true, because, you know, the fact I got over 100 every single time basically meant I got like 35 tickets every single time. So really, I could have done it in, you know, £10 if you wanted the most expensive yo-yo in the world, which, you know, that yo-yo probably cost them that company like 20p or something. So yeah, put another £10 in. I played piano tiles like 5 times in a row to get enough tickets, and we ended up with 300 tickets. So, you know, we got yo-yo and 2 bags of Haribos. And now my friend is pretty okay at yo-yoing. So there you go. That's a, you know, fun time at the bowling alley. Yesterday, but also another fantastic, like, crazy story, which I'll talk about maybe tomorrow, maybe I won't, I don't know. But I'm going to round off this episode here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Any likes, comments, subscriptions, shares are greatly appreciated. Join me, Dear Darling, Discord, follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye bye for now.